Hello, I'm Mark, and welcome to my Unreal Engine tutorial on how to build an XP management component for your Unreal Engine games. So in this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and build a little system that'll help us to manage our character's XP progression throughout a game, as well as map that XP progression to our character's current level. This tutorial will be broken up into two parts. In part one of this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and define the data structure that will hold our character's XP progression, and then build out a little actor component to help manage our character's XP progression throughout the game. After that, what we'll then do is we'll go ahead and build that spiffy little widget you can see in the corner, as well as then go ahead and create a little save and then loading system so that we can revert back to our last save instance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to take my demo project and just move that off screen and over to there. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead, and I'm using a third person template project. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to say third person project. I'm using C++ because I'm going to be building our little component, our structure and our component in C++. And then I like to use scalable. We don't need starter content and we don't need ray tracing. Once we've got that configured, we'll just go ahead. You want to go ahead and give it a name. Something like Core XP Demo. And then from there, and then just go ahead and hit create and let Unreal Engine go ahead and build the project. So I actually have a copy of this project built, so I'm just going to move this off screen and close that. And so once Unreal Engine's finished going ahead and building out that little C++ game project, this is what you should end up looking at. So let's go ahead and start building our XP structure. So to do that, we're just going to come down to our content drawer, come in, and as you can see, we've got content, and then we have C++ classes. We're going to come in to C++, go to Core Live Demo, and as you can see, we already have two classes that are created. One is the character and one is the game mode. We're not going to do anything with this for this demo, so we're just going to ignore those. But we're going to then come over here, we're going to right click in the tray, and I'm just going to say new class, which will bring up our little class generation widget. So from here, so Unreal Engine doesn't have a way to create structures, but rest assured we can go ahead and do that with a little bit of editing to one of these templates. So we're just going to come up to none. We're going to hit next. I'm going to say public class, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a folder called XP, and we'll just give this little class a name. I'm going to call it Core XP. And then we're just going to say create class. We're going to let Unreal Engine go ahead and do its thing. It's compiling now. And hopefully we should get a good compile, and we do. Alright, and okay, that's turned off, good. So once that's compiled, we can then come into Visual Studio, bring up our project. I'm just going to say reload, and then under games, so under the solution chart here, I'm using Visual Studio. We've got the actual engine itself. We're not going to do anything there. And then under here, we actually have this is our code that we're going to be creating. So under here, we're going to come down to source, XP Live Demo, and then we have public and private. And as we continue to drill down in our folder structure, there we have it. There's our little structure. So this is the header file. And then up here is our implementation. So as you can see, this is a class. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. So, but what we really want is a structure. So we're going to go ahead and take this class and turn it into a structure. And so to do that, we're going to need to add a couple of little things here. So first off, we're going to want to add the Core XP generated .h file. All Unreal Engine classes need to have this, and we need to make sure that this is the last include in the include stack. So I like to just keep a little space here. That way I know that it's the last one. Makes it a little easier for me to find it. Next up, we're just going to go ahead and put a little decorator on here. So we're going to use this uStruct, and then we're going to make it blueprint type. So this will allow this struct, once it's defined as a struct, to show up in the Unreal editor. And then we'll just go ahead and change this from class to struct. And we just keep that like that. Spell it correct. And that should give us struct. And we're just going to go ahead and add the prefix of f. So all structures in Unreal Engine start with the prefix of f. It's just how they do their naming convention. And so we'll need to then do it for the constructor and the destructor right down here. So let's just go ahead and clean up these little green squigglies real quick. So I'm just going to come down here, get rid of these. Just going to let Visual Studio go ahead and take care of this for me. And once that's cleaned up, we can now go ahead and start defining the attributes of our Core XP structure. So for the first one, I'm just going to copy from my other solution and paste it in here. So first off, we need a current XP. This is the current XP of our character within the game. So as you can see, we've got, oh, nope, I forgot something. That's what that purple squiggly is there for. So whenever we're using the generated.h there, we also need to make sure we're using this generated body here as well. So first off, we're going to use, so let's come down to here, current XP. We're going to make this a U property. We're going to make this edit defaults only, blueprint read only, and then we're just going to give it a nice little categorization for when we view it in our blueprint. And I'm just going to call it player XP, and I'm going to use, by using a pipe, we can create subcategories. So that's just using a little pipe indicator. So this is going to be under player XP and then leveling. So I'm just going to hit save. Next up, going to come and we're going to go ahead and do max XP. So as we progress through the levels, we'll want to know what our next goal is. So we're going to start, at 100, but as we continue to, level up, this number will, get larger and larger. So this is our max XP. This is our goal. This is our current. Again, edit defaults only, blueprint read only. And again, we'll keep it under the same category of leveling. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add a XP increase percentage. So this is how much I want our max XP to increase each time we level up. So I'm just going to set this to 1.0, which is 100%. So we'll just go ahead and do that. After that, we've got our current level, so we want to also manage our current level. So most games, everyone starts at level 1, so we'll do that, set it to 1, and this will be an integer. I'm also going to add into our little component a levels banked. So this is something where you, as your character levels up, you may not want to spend a level immediately, so we can bank those until they're ready to be spent. And most games, when you level up, you also get perks as well. So perks, we're going to separate the levels bank and the perks bank. And while we're tracking perks, just like we're tracking levels, we can also have perks spent. So as we're leveling up, we can bank them, and then as we spend them in an abilities tree, we can then track the spending of those perks. So once we've done that, that's pretty much all of the attributes that we're going to have in our Core XP structure. I'm going to go ahead and add some functions as well that will allow us to interact with this data. So the first one is going to be increase level. So we're going to have increase level, and we're just going to pass the amount that we want to increase the level by, and so that'll be an integer. Next up, I'm going to put in here get current XP percent. So this will take this divided by that, and it will give us how far we're into that level's progression. I'm also going to add spend available levels. I'm going to put that there, and that's going to return a true, a bool. And I'm also going to do the same thing for spend available perks as well. So now that we've gone ahead and defined our header file, let's go ahead and do the implementation in the CPP file. So I'm just going to come down here. I'm just going to go potential fix. And we'll move over to here. So we're not going to do anything. We're just going to use the default constructor and the default destructure for this. So that will be fine. So under increase level amount, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a plus equals for the amount. So we'll take the amount. We'll do a plus equals. So we'll just continue to increment our perks banked by whatever the amount's coming through. And the same thing for levels too. Just keep it simple. Next, we're going to do the percent. So we'll do that. Go potential fix. And all we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and return the current XP divided by the max XP. Real simple. We're going to do spend available level. So I'm just going to go potential fix. Just going to go and bring this over. So here we've got levels banked. So we don't want to actually do this if we don't have any levels banked. So levels banked, if levels banked is greater than 0, i.e. we have some levels banked, then what we'll do is we'll take the levels out of this column and we'll put it into the current levels column. And we'll return true if we do this. Otherwise we just return false. Pretty much we have no levels to spend. And we're going to do the same things for perks. So go here, potential fix, come down, and there we go. And that's it again. So this is very similar to levels. We just do the same thing for perks. We just, if we have perks banked, we'll take it out of the banked and put it into the spent, return true. Otherwise, if we can't do this, we'll just return false. All right, and so that will do it for our data structure. So now let's move over to our class, which we're going to use to then manipulate the data here. So to do that, we're just going to come over to our solution here. I'm just going to go to content drawer. I'm going to come to back here. So because it's a structure, Unreal Engine doesn't seem to like putting structures here, only classes. So if you do all of that work and you go ahead, we'll just go ahead and just compile it to make sure that is a good compile. Yep, good compile. So if you see that your structures on here, don't wig out. It's just how Unreal Engine manages that. It only just shows classes, not structs. So now we're going to go ahead and create our actor component that will help manage our XP. So to do that, we're just going to say new class, and I'm going to go ahead and out of the common classes pick the actor component. I'm going to hit next, and we're just going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call this XP component public. So I'll just click on that. So here it is. I'm just going to go public XP. I'm going to select that folder. And that's where we'll go ahead and put that. And that should map that back to our solution. So I'm just going to hit create class. Let Unreal Engine do its thing. It's going to go ahead and try and compile it. Yep, once again, good compile. So we're going to come back in here. We're just going to go ahead and reload. And now we've got our components. And as you can see, there's our struct. Oops, nope. there's our struct, and there's our new component class. And as you can see under private here, this is where the implementation CPP files are, and again they just map straight to that. So let's get started. So first off, I'm just going to go ahead and put some space between me and the generated file, and let's go ahead and create the include to include our structure into our class. So I'm going to do that. Let's say include. And there's our core xp.h. Just going to take that. And that's the only thing that we need for this. All right, so let's go ahead and start defining. So in the solution I showed you before, we have a, as we continue our XP progression, we're going to want to update the UI. So to do that, I'm actually going to use a delegate when we get to that part in part 2 to be able to update the UI. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring in this delegate. So this is a declare dynamic multi-class delegate. This is going to be one parameter delegate, and we're just going to use this on XP update signature. It's going to be an integer, and that's the integer variable name that's going to go in there. And then within the structure here, we have a public constructor, we have the begin play under protected, and then we have the public tick component. So I'm just going to go, I like to add any delegates that I do under this public statement here. So we're going to make this a property. This will be blueprint assignable. That way I can then map this in the editor when we get to blueprints. And there's the signature there. This maps to this. This is what we're going to call it. And it will then, this will generate us a delegate which has an integer that will take a one parameter integer. So next up, under protected, we're going to go ahead, and I like to put my variables above my functions. It's just my personal preference. So I'm going to go ahead, but when it comes to here, I like to put my constructors always above everything else. So constructor, we've got this variable here, which is our delegate. Then here, we've got our core XP player, XP. Under here, edit defaults only, blueprint read only, and again, a category. We're just going to call this player XP so that we can find it in the blueprint. And then after that, we're just going to come down to our public section down here and start defining our functions that we can then use to interact with our player XP core data here. So first off, I'm going to put in our getter and a setter. So from here, we're just going to do a force inline since this is just a getter. So get play core XP, this is going to be constant, and all it's going to do is it's just going to return a copy of the structure back. And these two functions are useful for saving and loading the data for our save system. And then again, we're going to do the same thing for our setter, set play core. This is going to be void. So this function can be blueprint pure because it's a function that returns. So we can make this blueprint pure. Versus this is blueprint callable because this is a void and it doesn't return anything. We'll go ahead and define this a little bit later when we start working on the implementation code. But for now, we'll just go ahead and define all of our functions, and then we'll go ahead and start adding the code in after that. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the %. This one, again, I'm going to do a force inline. It's going to return a float, or it could, current XP %. And then there's our current XP % function, which is in our struct. So it's just going to take the structure, and we're just going to go ahead and pull this information and just return it back. After that, let's go ahead and get our current level. So this is our player's current level. So again, it's an integer. We're just going to go onto here, and then we're just going to directly access the current level variable under player XP. And again, just make this force inline since it's very simple. And we're just going to make sure it's constant. That way, whatever's calling this can't change this. It's just one way. After that, we're going to go ahead and get the available perks banked. So this will give us the ability to see how many perks we have banked. And again, very similar to current level. And we've got levels banked as well. So perks banked, level banked, very similar. And these again can be pure since they're all returning. These can be all blueprint pure since they're all returning a value coming back. Next, we're going to create a blueprint callable function, which is increase XP. So every time we kill something or find a location and we get something that's going to create, give us XP, we can call this module, we'll call this function on there, put the amount that we're going to increase the XP by in, and this function will do the work, all that work for us. Then I'm also going to include a spend available level, so this will allow us to spend that level. So for this demo, we're just going to automatically spend the level every time we level up. So we'll just call this function to do that. And again, we'll also do the same thing for perks again. And these are, since these are voids, they're all blueprint callable. And then the last thing I'd like to do is I'm just going to create a little compounded function here that will allow us to create a, if we have multiple levels, we can just do that in one compounded, we can create that, progression in one compounded function call. So we'll add that there and we'll go ahead and start defining these things. So first off, let's go ahead back up here and say set player core XP. So I'm just going to come here, hover over, show potential fixes. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do before I go ahead and put the implementation is this component, we're not going to be using anything in the tick, and we probably never will want to use anything in this tick component. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this default from true to false. And by doing that, pretty much it says that this component won't ever be able to tick. And by doing that, we can then help to optimize some of our optimize the code a little bit and make it a little bit more performant within the solution. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'll just minimize that. Actually, no, I won't. We'll just keep that for there. The next thing I'm going to do while I'm up here is I'm just going to go ahead and just add a little timer to this function. And so what this is going to do is this is using the get will timer. So this is kind of akin to using a delay in the code. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a delay time handler, and this is just a quick little lambda function within here. And all we're going to do is we're just going to increase the XP by 0. This will just force things to just get that initial byte within the game, and this will give us a 0.5 second delay, and it won't loop. So that's how we've set that up. All right, so now we've done that. Let's just come down to set our player core XP. So we'll come down here, and all we're going to do is we're going to say player XP equals the value coming in. So that will set all that data all at once, and then we'll go ahead and do a broadcast of 0. So I'm using 1 and 0, 1 being we leveled up and 0 means we didn't level up. And all this is going to do, since when we reload, we're not necessarily leveling up, we just want to refresh the data in our widget. So this will allow us to just do a simple little refresh of that widget once we load the data in. Next, we're going to come down to our increase XP. So this is the function that does all the work. And I'm just going to go ahead and just copy all of that over here for you. And so all this is that we're going to pass the amount in. So what we do first off is we're going to take the current XP, and then we're going to add the amount to the current XP and put that into a temporary variable called total. Next, we're going to test that total to see if the total amount is actually more than the current maximum XP. If it is, right, we're going to come down here. We're going to say, okay, well, we know that we've increased, we're going to level up. So we're going to say increase level by 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and say take the max XP here minus the total and give us the difference. So this will give us the extra XP that we still need to account for. And then from here, we'll go ahead and calculate the amount of XP based on a little compounding function. So we'll take the max XP, we'll take the increased percentage, and the level. So, and for this one, I'm just going to always use level of 1. That will now set our new max XP. And then we'll reset the current XP to 0, since we'll be starting that new progression for the next level. And then because we have a difference, we're going to do a recursive function until we've spent all this difference. So what we'll do is we'll end up recalling ourselves, right, passing in the difference amount, and then we'll go ahead and do this whole test again. And if this difference is now plus the new current XP, which will be 0, if it's still greater, we'll go ahead and do this again. If it's now less than, we'll just come down to here. We'll just go ahead and add the total to the current XP, and then we'll go ahead and do our little broadcast. I'm going to go ahead and do the broadcast after the recursive function. That way this only gets done once, right? So the way recursive works is it will continue to go down the recursive chain until it gets to the end, and then when it gets to the end, it will then return back up the recursive chains, coming back to here, and then it will come to the broadcast. Here, when we get to here, we're just going to broadcast 0, so we're just going to say, we're just updating the XP, which is upgrading the progress bar, but we're not going to go ahead and say that we've now gained a new level. Okay, so that's the big function. After that, we've just got our little helper functions out here. So spend available level, let's just go ahead and get that implementation done. So I'm just going to go, and this one's a real simple one. So it's really just calling the player XP level amount right here, and we just call the same function. Now this one returns a true. Since for this demo, I'm not going to be doing anything with it. I'm just going to just call it as is. But you may want to have additional delegates up top where if you spend a level, you might want to call something and broadcast that you're spending a level out to whatever's listening. And you can do that here if it returns true. And we'll do the same thing for our spend available perk. So we'll just do that. And it'll be the same thing. I'm just going to execute it right here. And then lastly, our little compounding function. So to do that, we'll come down here and we'll just go ahead and just put the formula in. So this is pretty much, we take the amounts multiplied by math power, and then it's just 1 plus % divided by level, and then power of level. And that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it for our structure, which is our core XP, as well as our actor components. And so in part 2, we will go ahead of this video, we'll go ahead and we'll integrate this into our solution. And we'll then build the widget that shows our progression across the screen. And then we'll also add the quick little save and loading system as well. So if you made it to the end of my video, part 1, I thank you for it. And if you like what I'm doing, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.